Hey. Hello. Mommy is going to tell the story of how you came into this world. You ready to hear it? Okay, let's go. Hello, welcome to the channel. If you are new here, my name is Sam Griffin. I am a mom, 30 years old. I have two boys under 2 years old, currently 3 months and 19 months. And my 19-month-old is sleeping. So I pretty much document my life of how I get around with two under two and bring you along with me. But today we're not going to do a little vlog. We are going to share, we as in me and Hudson with moral support, we're going to share how he came into this world and what was going on before, what I was feeling during, and then the after. So get your little drink if you are sitting down. I'm having liquid IV, which is, I always look forward to it. Also, if I look over here, it's because he's in a little baby bouncer and he is smiling so much. Or just pop me into your ears with your AirPods or whatever and go about cleaning and we shall have a little chat. I'm so thankful to not be pregnant tired anymore. I would much rather be newborn / infant tired. So much. I am so thankful that I am able to be pregnant and was pregnant. Just comparing the two tireds, and there is nothing like pregnancy tired. It's just a whole other thing. You don't have your body as you're used to having it. You can't put the baby down. And especially if you already have one or more, you're chasing around kids. And so it's just a lot, but it's so worth it. Hudson is the name of my second born, who I will be talking about. He was due August 7th. He came August 6th. So one day early, almost was close to his due date. He was born 9:13 p.m. The whole pregnancy, honestly, was just a lot going on. Like, yes, I was taking care of a 1-year-old, and also our house, when we bought it in January, we knew it needed some fixing up, but we did not anticipate on how much it needed fixing. And so there were just times when we were in and out of the home, Bear and I, and because the kitchen wasn't usable or the bathroom wasn't usable, and it was just much easier to crash at somebody else's house than to try and keep him away from it. That was just a whole other curveball that we weren't anticipating when we got pregnant. And then there was just the summer months that were really hot, very, very hot. I had a long pregnancy, like seemingly long. And I think it was like the whole last month, the last 4 to 5 weeks, I was like, I think went from 3 centimeters dilated to 5 centimeters dilated was, I don't know, went from like 40% effaced to like 50 to 60% effaced. And my midwife would make comments of like, if I see you next time or next appointment, or I'm surprised you're still here. So that would just like play with my mind. And I was just like, okay, any day now. So I was like looking into every sign. I was definitely having Braxton Hicks, which I don't think I experienced with my firstborn Bear. I also had back labor with him. So that was just like a whole different experience. But this one, I was like, oh, is this it? And it wasn't painful, but it was just definitely contracting. But I was moving a lot more. I was more aware of things. So it was just hard to know. But yeah, it was like 4 to 5 weeks where I was like, am I going into labor? I don't know. And my prayer was that it just would be clear when I was supposed to go to the hospital, because I have 2 friends who, with their second borns, like they barely made it to the hospital. They gave birth so quickly after. And I just knew that my first one came relatively fast. And so with my second one, I was thinking, okay, this is probably going to be faster. I just did not want to give birth at home or in the car. So I also wanted that epidural. Just going to be straightforward with that. I wanted an epidural. I wanted it to hit in time. So the week leading up to the week he was due, I was just so exhausted. I mean, it was to the point where I was not cooking anymore. I was getting freezer pre-made meals from Trader Joe's. We were eating out. We were in survival mode. I was like, I am so exhausted. And I have big boys too. Like my son, he wanted to be carried. He's just heavy. He was like 31 pounds at the time, probably. He's now, I think he's about 33 pounds. So yeah, I was getting in some workouts. The plan originally was to have, my mom and dad live about 2.5 hours away. So the plan was to have somebody on call here And then, so like, especially if I went into labor in the middle of the night, they could come over, watch Bear while we went to the hospital. But I was always so nervous, especially with all the things that I was feeling, that I would just go into labor in the middle of the night, and then somebody wouldn't hear their phone and we would have to take Bear to the hospital, and that would just be a whole thing. So it's interesting. He came, I think Hudson came on a Thursday, I believe, or maybe it was a Wednesday. I think it was a Wednesday. And that Monday, I asked my mom to come up and just to kind of be here and be on call. And that Tuesday, I was just so tired. I was like, my mom, I remember I was sitting in the kitchen and my mom and I were talking, and she was talking to me, but I had a hard time focusing. And I was just like, I'm just going to go rest. Bear was down for a nap. I was like, I'm going to go lay down on the couch and just take a nap. And so she's like, yes, go. I also was laying on a towel because my water broke with Bear in bed. And I was just like, I just feel like this would be easier. So I was laying on a towel, laying on the couch. It was about probably 3 something in the afternoon. I was about to close my eyes and I felt a little flutter. It was like the same thing I felt with Bear, little flutter. And then I start peeing myself, except it was not pee. It was my water breaking. So it was amniotic fluid. My water broke, and I wasn't sure because I was able, with Bear, when it broke, I was not able to like stop it. With him, I like clenched, and so like it stopped, and then it kept going. So immediately when it happened, I said, Mom, and she was like, yes. And I like paused because I wasn't sure if it was my water. And my husband, actually, no, Bear was not napping. He was at the store with Gunther, my husband. They were just down the street at Home Depot. And so I was like, my water broke. And she said, okay, what do you want me to do? And I said, call Gunther. I'm going to jump in the shower. So I was able to like waddle to the bathroom with the towel between my legs and went and took a shower. She called Gunther. He was home in like 10 minutes. And we were at the hospital within 40 minutes, which was great. And so I go in, they wheelchair me in, and they were like, all right, check in. Like, so at this point, I wasn't really feeling anything, but I was really nervous that I was going to, especially with you, like whenever your water breaks. If you don't know this already, usually your contractions are more intense because there's no barrier that you can really feel a lot. Got to the hospital. They're like, all right, at your last appointment, how far along were you? And I was like, about 5.5 centimeters and about 60% of face. And there were like some nurses sitting behind the check-in lady, and they're like, okay, let's get you in here. And so they take me back to triage, check to see if my water broke, and it did. And they're like, do you want the epidural? You know, and I was getting hooked up to see if they can monitor my contractions. And I was like, yes, I do. I want one ASAP. And they're like, okay. And they're like, well, you know, you may not want to ask for one too early because then it won't be as strong or as effective. I can't remember exactly what she said. Bless you. I was like, okay, that's fine, but I want one anyway. Because last time with Bear, I was not sure. Sometimes they say epidurals can slow down your progress, but it allowed me to relax with Bear, that it actually kind of sped it up. And I really just did not want to be induced in any way. Not that anything's wrong with that. I just wanted to go as natural as possible. But I had the epidural. They're like, okay, that's fine. It will take, you know, because they also say ask for it sooner than you want it because it won't come immediately. I asked for it. There were like some contractions where I could barely feel them. And then there were some that were getting stronger and stronger. So we got moved from triage to where I was going to give birth. And it took a while. That's when my contractions really started kicking in. I was like, this hurts. This hurts a good bit. I'm glad I'm getting that epidural, but it took a minute. And so when they finally came in, I sat still. They gave me the epidural. And I think like an hour went by and I was feeling the epidural. Or no, I was not feeling the epidural. I was feeling the contraction still. And I was so confused and I was so discouraged. I was like, why am I feeling this? This is not hitting me. They're like, it might take a while or a minute for it to hit your system. I think my blood pressure dropped because I felt cold but sweaty. And I felt like I wanted to throw up. So they did whatever they needed to do to fix that. But I kept telling the nurse, I was like, I'm still in pain. I'm in a lot of pain. And with Bear, like I had back contractions and I was walking around. I was like in so much pain, but mentally I was able to like not be as discouraged because I was like, I don't have an epidural. I'm walking around. And this time I had the epidural. And so I could not get up and it was still so painful. So I remember looking at Gunther at one point and I just had like a tear roll down my cheek because I was just so like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so painful if I can feel this. And I have an epidural and this is just so bad. Anyway, and so I asked for like basically more. And I said, why am I feeling this pain? Why am I feeling this pressure? And she was like, it may just be that you're progressing very quickly. And the anesthesiology came back and gave me the most that they could give me. Then after that, they checked me and I had basically progressed. I don't even know how many hours. Probably in like 3 hours, I progressed from 5.5 to 9 centimeters. And I guess what had happened was that the epidural didn't have time to catch up with how fast he was progressing. But then it finally kicked in. I was completely numb. I was personally too numb. I did not like not being able to feel anything. With Bear's epidural, I could still feel pressure, but it wasn't painful. Like it was uncomfortable, but it wasn't painful. So I knew when to push. And with this epidural, I felt nothing. So I did not like how I could not feel anything. But whatever, I was numb. We put on like Hotel Transylvania 3 or something, like something lighthearted and whatever to get my mind off of things. It was an hour pass, and I think the doctor came in and they checked me and they're like, all right, we're going to go get the midwife and she's going to come and check you. And if you're ready to push, great. If not, we're going to give you Pitocin, which why they push it so quickly, I don't really know. I have heard different things, but my goal was not to have Pitocin. I mean, at this point, I guess I had the epidural, so it wouldn't really matter. I just didn't want anything that was going to be bad. So then I was starting to get a little bit nervous because honestly, that's why I wanted the epidural, was not for the contractions, but for the pushing part, because I just get nervous. So the midwife came in and she checked me and I was ready to go. I pushed, like I said, could not feel anything. So I only pushed on their, like they said, okay, ready, push. It took about 23 minutes, I think, to push. So he came out very fast. The cord was wrapped around his neck a little bit, but they were able to do it very quickly to where it was fine. And then he came and it was all done. So I had the golden hour, which is where you hold your baby on your chest for an hour, skin to skin. And honestly, sadly, I was like shaking so much. I felt like I could not rest and really enjoy the moment. So like I was obviously enjoying like holding my baby, and it was so beautiful because too, the whole pregnancy, he came by accident in the sense of like we were not intentionally planning on having a second one so soon. So it was like this weird kind of, and I was also distracted with Bear the whole pregnancy. To say that I didn't really feel pregnant is kind of like a weird thing to say, but like it really hit me finally when he came and was on my chest. I was like, wow. And so there were like tears and I was so happy and I was just glad it was over. And so they were stitching me up and she said I tore internally. She said I had scar tissue from the last one, even though the last one they said it was like a micro tear. And when I was holding him, I felt like I couldn't relax, which was really discouraging because I was like exhausted. So the golden hour was done and I just was exhausted, but everything was good after that, especially after, he was all cleaned up and sleeping. We were out in like 24 hours. We left the next night. He did fail his hearing test. And so actually we're doing more screenings currently because he most likely has fluid in his ears. That's what we're still trying to figure out. And so we actually just went to the ENT yesterday and we're still hoping that it will resolve itself and that he will not need tubes, but that is what it might be looking like. If you are a mom and have an experience with your kids having tubes or anything like that, please comment below and let me know. I'd love to hear more because it's just kind of nerve-wracking, especially at this age where like he would have to be sedated to be even tested for a certain kind of test if he fails the next one. So I'm just trying to pray and think through like what the next steps would be and options. But he seems like he can hear, like he responds to me. Back to the day of his birth. So he came out and he was good. He was healthy and everything. But the next 6 weeks and then the 6 weeks after that, I think he's about to be 16 weeks. I can't really remember where he is far along as in weeks, but the first 6 weeks were really, I'm so glad I had help. Like my mom was in town for 3 weeks and then my mother-in-law was in town for 3 weeks helping with Bear and helping with Hudson. Gunther had paternity leave, but like with the nature of his job, just the timing of everything, he couldn't really fully be off work. So it was just so huge to have help because I was in a lot of pain, and then you're not sleeping. So everything's filtered through that, even though it's like really sweet at the same time. And you can like tangibly see why you're not getting sleep, and it's just so worth it. But the pain is just unlike anything else. So because I had an internal tearing, the whole dermaplast, witch hazel, all the pads, cooling down like was not as effective because it was not topical. So that was tough. So I just kind of had to take it easy. And anytime I had like a spurt of energy, I had to remind myself, like, you're not fully healed, just chill out. But by 6 weeks, I got cleared to work out and everything was good. Did not work out yet, but I did slowly start walking again. The next 6 weeks was hard in a different way because I was healed, or I felt better. I obviously wasn't like probably completely healed, but I felt better. But then I had to like kind of remember what it was like to be normal or without so much help, is what I'm trying to say. And just taking care of 2 babies was a lot. And then Gunther being at work, and he did take it slower once my mom and mother-in-law left, because then it was just me and him. So he didn't go into work as much. But just even something as simple as cooking consistently was overwhelming, or going to the grocery store, or going out with both boys at the same time. And I just had such a great community of friends and moms of like, hey, when you're ready to go out with the boys, like text me, we'll go to the park and I can help you. Like that was just so huge. So if you are a mom about to go through a transition of 1 to 2, 2 to 3, whatever, like I just hope that you have that community. If not, find it if you can, because I don't mean to sound callous of like, just find it. Like, no, I know it's not everybody's situation, but just if there's any help that you are being offered, take it up, because I think that just helped me mentally so much and not feel so overwhelmed and discouraged, especially like they're feeding so often. So you can't always chase around your toddler when you're breastfeeding in public and all the things, right? Yeah, he is 3 months, like I said, and each week I could just tell was more and more manageable. He's a great sleeper and eater. I'm so thankful. I know this is not everybody's situation, but he does not take a passy, and Bear did, and slash still does, but I actually think that's a good thing in this sense. And like, I honestly think there's pros and cons to passy, no passy. Pro for this one is that like if he had a passy and it would fall out, Bear would wake up. But this way he just takes his thumb. And so I think he's able to self-soothe a little bit more independently. So he right now is going down for the night between 7 and 8. And then he hasn't been waking up till like 4:30, unless he has like an off night, is up like every 2 hours. But that is not as common as the nights that he sleeps a while. So he's getting like a good 8-hour stretch. And I'm getting better at being disciplined to being in bed between 8:30 and 9. So I at least have like a 4 to 5 hour stretch. So that's really good. And that's my birth story, labor delivery story. It's been sweet. I love being a boy mom. I would love a girl one day, but if I'm just a boy mom too, that would be great. They're just so fun, and he's so sweet. And his brother is great with him. He loves him. So sweet, and gets so excited to see him every morning. And I'm excited to watch them grow up and play together. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that was maybe encouraging, or just another insight and perspective to labor and delivery, especially after having one already. If you are not subscribed, please subscribe and comment below anything that you would find helpful, any questions or whatever. And I will talk to you in the next vlog. All right, bye.